Welcome, everybody. Excited to have you guys here for our first Diamond List kind of inaugural cohort launch. And so really quickly, we really want to grow and accelerate the early stage climate ecosystem. So we basically heard from a lot of our friends in venture capital, particularly in the climate space, that they turn away strong teams that seem really interesting, but they're either a little too early or a little too risky or don't fit a somewhat narrow thesis. At the same time, there's like all of this influx of money that's coming into climate, right? So I've, over the past year, I think I've had quite a few groups approach me or get introduced that are people trying to get into climate investment and are really looking to figure out where is it that their sometimes small, sometimes large amount of dollars can make the biggest difference, right? And so they're really looking to support really, really early stage companies because a small amount of money is incredibly transformative there. But those entities have like way smaller staff and way less resources to do due diligence, which is particularly painful in climate because, as you know, emissions come from every part of the economy. And so climate companies are incredibly varied, like literally the same as the entire economy. So we decided to basically bridge these two groups so that early stage companies can essentially get help and funding faster. Okay, so this happened partially based on like our personal experience, right? So I run a company called Frost Methane Labs, and about a year and a half ago, we got some small amount of funding from the Mulago Foundation and Lower Carbon Capital, whom I will love forever. And that was the difference between us hopping along with some very dedicated volunteer time and whatever my bank account could bear as far as prototypes and getting out there to like actually executing, de-risking, and getting to the like really amazing position that we're in now. At the same time, Kez, Zeina, and Jeremy from the Work on Climate group were busy getting getting mid-career and early talent into climate change, right, from kind of more generalized tech. And the question actually that comes up is actually about the same, right? Where can an hour of my time make the most difference? And the answer is often really at getting folks to like that through that first stage of de-risking into kind of mainstream investable companies. And so it's the same question, right? Like you want to be putting your time into like the best possible early stage companies, but which ones are the ones that are really good? What are these like high leverage things in climate change? And so between that and putting together this huge nomination committees that are all VCs with various areas of expertise, right? From industrial to transportation to energy to like carbon capture, we put together over 100 individuals on the VC space with an average of 7.5 years in climate. So folks that are deep on some particular sub area. And that's how the Diamond List came to be. And so we're super happy that indeed the companies that were nominated really do represent roughly where emissions are coming from at not quite, but very close to the right proportions. And in case you're wondering what that rainbow thing at the top is, Diamond List founders don't like to be put into categories. So when we let people type in the other category, we got this whole rainbow of things, which actually makes a lot of sense. And maybe we should rethink how we do categories. So we're super happy about this, that we really have companies representing everything. And this is kind of in contrast to what you see in mainstream climate change we see now, where 63% goes to mobility and transportation with huge emphasis on like e-bikes and scooters, which are great, but probably not where 63% of the emissions are coming from or where you could solve that. So I think we're more representative of the emissions system. Now, some good news on the slide though, investment in climate ventures has literally 10x in the last 7 years. We're still behind AI, but at least catching up. Okay, so the thing where we would love people's help on the next year is we absolutely did our best to get out of our San Francisco US-based bubble, right? And so we did have a little under half the companies coming from other places with like a large emphasis on the UK. So we're super proud of this, but would love to do a little better next year because even how hard it was like for me to kind of get off the ground and for my company. I do have the benefit of sitting in Silicon Valley, coming out of Google X, kind of all of that stuff. But there's good solutions coming from people that aren't of the same background. And so we'd really love to get more developing world representation there. We're happy with what we've got, but definitely send investors our way that have more geographically diverse portfolio companies. All right, so how do you use the diamond list? So first, get inspired, right? Like that was, I think the biggest takeaway for me was I only knew about a quarter of the companies that were on the list, and I considered myself to be really well informed. And so it was amazing to me to see how many like incredible solutions there are out there, and the variety of both the technical and the business model innovation that we saw on the list. So if you take nothing else away from this, get super inspired. There's awesome people working on this. Discover solutions, right? So there's, some of these companies could be a supplier for you of like green hydrogen, of offsets. There's kind of a bunch of options there. Please take a look at the asks column. A lot of these companies are hiring, looking for specific intros, things that are pretty easy to do. And so if you're either looking for a job or you're looking, someone who is, or you can make some of those intros, there's many ways of accelerating the companies that are not necessarily investment related. But if you are an investor, first, and you want some access to like pitch decks or introductions, email us at hello@diamondlist.com to get some like investor specific information, and join next year's nomination committees and your favorite climate investors. Send them to apply kind of on our website to be part of the nomination committee. Bonus for international portfolio, like for folks with international portfolio companies as well. All right, and the last thing is that we only really released this about a week ago, but we're pretty excited about having had a bunch of visitors to our website from a variety of places. And we're also already have made dozens of introductions from startups to investors, and have been hearing from startups that both customers and investors are reaching out directly. So we're super happy about this. We don't have any really good stats yet other than the website hits, but at the 6-month mark or something, we'll throw something out there.
Awesome. Thanks, Olya. I'm Zeina. I'm another one of the co-founders of Diamond List. Nice to meet you all who I haven't met yet already. I'm going to ask you for a favor right away, is if everyone could please rename themselves in Zoom. This is just going to make the breakout rooms and Q&A and stuff a lot easier. We've included a screenshot there if you haven't done this before, but you're going to go down to the bottom of your Zoom and click on participants. And then there's going to be a button that says more. And if you click on more, you have the option to rename yourself. And we've included a convention here. So if you're on the Diamond List, put DL first. That's how we'll know who you are. If you're not, skip that and then go on to name, org, etc. And also, if you're a Diamond List founder and you're going to be participating in the lightning intros, just add the word lightning at the end. That's how we're going to know to call on you. And it's going to be great. In the meantime, just to give you guys an overview of what's coming up next, we're going to try to spend as much of the time as possible meeting founders and then heading into breakout rooms. So these 3 founders shown here on the slide, they're going to give a little bit more in-depth talks, like 5 minutes or so each. And the audience, you'll have the opportunity to ask a question or two right after each one. So if you want to ask a question, raise your hand. There's a raise hand feature as part of Zoom as well, and we'll try to get to your question. If for whatever reason, you don't want to raise your hand or you can't raise your hand, type your question into the chat and we'll try to get that answered for you on the back end. You should also just feel free to use the chat however you want, if you want to make a comment or cheer someone on or whatever you need to do. So the chat is there for you. The raise hand feature is there for you. And then after we've heard from these 3, we're going to ask all the other Diamond List founders who are on the line who want to do those 30-second intros. Okay. So if that sounds good, I'm going to go in this order that I have here on the slide for lack of a better plan. So Fabio, would you mind going first?
I don't mind, I think. Yes. Can you hear me? Good, I'm assuming so. Let me just see. And now can you also see my screen? Just anybody nods, that's going to be, yes. Good. Okay. So my name is Fabio and I'm a co-founder and CEO at NxtGrid. And what we are is a solar mini-grid rental aggregator, which in essence means that we desperately try to have profitable, clean mini grids everywhere by everyone. So the context of our work is, in fact, working against the SDG 7, which is affordable and clean energy for all. And that says that by 2030, we want to have everybody have reliable, clean access to electricity. The interesting stat there is that all analysis actually says that to achieve that goal, we will need to have 50% of those connections be done by mini grids by that date. And the other interesting thing is that that is not happening. And for this reason, people are just defaulting to go and use fossil fuel diesel gen sets on their own individual use. So the context here is really mostly Africa, but a lot of other least developed countries where electricity is either not present or very unreliable. What we do is to democratize solar micro utilities in Africa, and we do so by doing equipment rental and AI-enabled support services. So of course, there wasn't much time for this presentation today, but I wanted to still give a quick pic of what is a solar mini grid like. This is what it looks like. It's a bunch of panels and then some batteries in the houses behind. And then from here, you run wires and poles, and you actually distribute electricity to all the people that we use it in the community. And when I say community, sometimes we're looking at places which are almost small cities. There are maybe 10,000 households. So they are not 50 houses. It can be much more than that. The market potential is massive. We're looking at $128 billion in capex in the next 10 years just for mini grids. So that's an quite impressive market that we're looking at, and it's virtually untapped today. So what happens today? We think it's important to involve the local companies and local shop owners and everybody to parallelize the work around rural energy access. But what we see a lot in developing countries is maybe there is a shop that sells solar and they want to go into mini grids, but they don't know where to start. Or they are really close to the community. Maybe they are in a community without electricity and they would like to build a mini grid, but they find the upfront cost to be too high. We're looking at maybe $100,000 for someone that makes, $1,000 every 2 months or so. So on the other side, there is financial institutions. And the interesting thing here is there is a lot of money that would want to flow to solar mini grids, but all the project financiers find it too small, too risky, the transaction costs are too high. Essentially, they don't know how to move either. And so they just default to going back to solar farms, wind farms, because that's what they understand. It's easy to do, just pump the money in and get the money out. So what we do is, in fact, try to connect these two worlds. On one side, the financiers, we get funds from them. We turn those into rentable assets, so specifically panels and batteries. And they give us the money because they get, in exchange, lower risk. They get due diligence on the developers. They get sites which are vetted. So they can start investing in solar mini grids without all the normal nuances of these investments. In addition to that, we also provide the operators, the developers, with automated operation support and AI-powered load management. So what that means is we can really extract as many electrons as possible from the PV production, and that increases the profitability of the mini grids. And so when all this is done, that's when the revenues from the energy sales start flowing back, and in fact, this now closes and everybody's happy again. So this is a quick scheme of what this looks like. We're looking at maybe 1,500 kilowatt hour a month, and then roughly 10% goes to NxtGrid in support fees. In this case, $750, then you have about 60% goes to rental fees, so back to the investors, and the rest goes, the $175 go to the developer, and that's their gross profit. We have already done this in a mini grid in Nigeria. This is our first mini grid installed last summer in July last year. And it has been running quite nicely. And in fact, we have already confirmed that we can do 80% utilization ratio. And we have a quite nice 20% return on capital. So this is proving that all the model we had actually works. And what we're doing now, of course, is a seed round to grow this further. Thank you so much. That was it.
Awesome. Thanks, Fabio. That was speedy. So if anyone has a question, raise your hand or throw it in the chat, whatever you prefer, and I'll try to call on you.
While this is happening, I'm just going to point out that while that's NxtGrid's first mini grid, Fabio himself has built, I think, over 20 before.
Yeah, that's true. We've been building mini grids for a good chunk of time since 2011. We started in Tanzania, and that has been like our cradle. Back then, we were doing everything, and we learned that it was a bit too much, and so we now really focus on helping others, deploy them and take advantage of the fact they know the communities and they really go the last mile. But we try to essentially work on our strengths, and the fact is that we're pretty good at the technological side and managing large number of projects, while maybe the local shop is really good at the last mile commercial side. That's really where their strength lies, and so we're trying to match these two.
Okay, I have one for you, Fabio.
Sure.
Eric is asking, what markets are you hoping to expand to?
Like
So,
where? Like location?
Oh yeah, go for it, Eric.
Sorry, no, I was just clarifying. I meant location.
Okay. Yeah. So that's we're not gonna go into the automotive market if that's what you were asking. But location-wise, Nigeria is our first go, and there is good reasons for that. They have a very new and very good regulatory framework for mini grids. But we know that there is a number of other countries that are coming up just like Nigeria. And in that sense, we need to thank an unlikely entity to thank, which is the World Bank. Typically, they do quite a bit of damage, but in this case, they're helping a lot because they are trying to replicate the best practice into renewables and solar electrification into other countries in least developed, in Africa specifically. So we imagine next there would be probably places like Ghana and then Ethiopia and a few others. But we see this rolling out, and Nigeria is really a great example of how well this is working.
Cool.
And there's a couple questions similar but different around the size of the grid. So one person is asking in terms of how big or small could you even put it in a yard if you wanted to? And someone else is asking about, size as related to profitability. Is there too small of a size that to make it a profitable enterprise for your business?
Yeah, so no, the trick is not so much the size, although that is something that we heard many times. We tend to start at about 20 or 30 kilowatt peak, so they're relatively small. A lot of it is really what we call the utilization ratio. So how good do you get at making sure that even in a cloudy day, you're extracting all your electrons and you don't need to oversize your grid. So the trick is so much more about the right sizing and making sure that you're smart about load control. And then you can go down to 20, 30 kilowatt peak and still be profitable. Of course, it becomes sweeter when you get a bit bigger. And that's where Nigeria really shines, because there are these massive communities where massive demand. And so you easily go in excess of 100 kilowatt peak for a grid.
Thanks, Fabio. I'm going to table the rest of the questions for now, but I'll probably email them to you after so we can get those answers to the folks who asked.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. And next I'm going to ask Ravi to unmute himself. And I know he has no slides. He's gonna just chat with you guys.
Keep it easy. Yeah, it's a simple concept. And how do you boil down 100+ pages of business plans and models and such to a few slides? So it's easier just to talk about it. And thank you, Zeina, Olya, and the rest of the Diamond List team for inviting me to speak today. So start the counter. My name is Ravi Mikkelsen. I'm one of the co-founders of Atmos Financial. We are a banking startup to democratize climate action. It's very similar, Fabio. And what we want to do is we want to give everyone the opportunity to take advantage of the power that they have in their bank accounts. And really, because what our bank accounts do is it finances the world that we live in. Gesundheit. And this happens because banks are the ones who primarily lend out the money to build infrastructure, whether that's a power plant, that's a bridge, a road, a school, whatever, prisons. And so when we say vote with your dollars, it's usually about going to a local coffee shop versus a mega chain coffee shop, and that helps on your local economy. But when we vote with our dollars by where we bank, we're literally voting to decide what gets built in this world. And so that's what we're doing. And so we are wholly dedicated to funding the equitable clean energy transition. And so we just launched about 6 weeks ago with a savings product, and every dollar that comes into an Atmos account will fund, right now it's utility scale solar. So it flows through Atmos into our sponsor bank, and then through our sponsor bank into a series of counterparty banks, which we're setting up. And then these banks have existing renewable energy lending programs, and our dollars will be part of their financing packages, which fund these utility scale solar projects. And then growing into a full service banking provider, we will soon launch our retail debit cards, checking accounts, mobile apps, and additional consumer deposit accounts. And then we'll launch commercial deposit and transaction accounts. So, because just like the individuals, all of us that work in the climate space, we don't want our money to act in opposition to what we do, neither should our companies. It's like, if I'm installing solar and the company's bank account is with Chase or Wells Fargo, all of that revenue from those solar projects might be funding oil extraction or a gas plant or something like that. And then ultimately for us, it's about deploying more capital. And so switching from the pass-through method that we're doing now through these counterparty banks, we will start our lending program this summer, and where we will be directing the capital directly to, and we're going to start with, and again in the residential space, with rooftop solar. So residential rooftop solar, battery storage, electrification and building performance, electric vehicles, e-bikes, and then growing from there, accessory dwelling units, and then keep building it up, because as Olya said, there are an entire wheel of colorful things that we need to fund. And a lot of, like Fabio's company, like most of the companies that are on the diamond list, they're going to require capital, not just equity capital, but project capital. And the depository capital that we're gathering is the lowest risk, lowest cost option. And so what we want to do is help all these companies get down that risk curve so that we can finance these projects, so that it's not just, oh, let's do green, let's not do renewable energy because it's the right thing to do from a climate and health perspective, but it's also the most economical option for us as well. So that's where we're starting. It's directionally accurate in our growth. It's up and to the right, more accounts bringing in deposits every day, and we're about to place our first tranche of deposits into a utility scale solar project. So that's super exciting. And I'll be able to announce that in the not too distant future. And yeah, and then just keep building it up. And ultimately, this is how, by working with the banks, this is how we get to the trillions of dollars deployed that the IPCC says we need to get to in every single year between now and 2050, if we're going to have any sort of chance of staying below 1.5 degrees centigrade. So it's a lot in a few minutes, but I'll stop there if anyone has questions, and I'm going to drop all my contact info into the chat. Yes, Malcolm, thank you so much for being both a customer and an investor, and happy to talk more. So thank you again.
Great, thanks, Ravi. That's awesome, Malcolm. Thanks for sharing that with everyone. And founders, yeah, in general, feel free to put whatever you want into the chat. I saw Pika Diapers has a link too. You can check that out on your spare time. Any questions for Ravi, either in the chat, or if anyone wants to ask aloud, you can raise your hand.
Ravi did such a great job that everybody's speechless.
Or I just ranted too much and Lost everyone.
That
It's
was
all
great.
right.
Great. You'll also have a chance to obviously ask more questions in the breakout rooms a little bit later. So if you're shy and you want to just ask in a smaller group, that's an option for you later.
And
Yeah, exactly, Laura. Where you bank is what you build. So this is, and I've been in climate and clean energy for 20 years as materials engineer by training, and I've been searching for the Archimedes lever. It's like, how do we move the world on climate change? And the old saying of money makes the world go round is true. So this is why I started, because even if you live in an apartment and if you put solar on your roof, that's your upstairs neighbor's floor. If you move where your savings account lives, it can finance solar on somebody else's roof or in a Nigerian village or city. Let's build the world that we want to see in, that we want to live in. So I guess there's no questions for right now. So I will.
Have one. Tom, do you want to ask your question?
Oh. Sure, great, thanks. Thanks, Ravi. Ravi, I think we met at some climate thing in San Francisco, and so I know you've been in the space a long time. And
yeah, you spoke at my event, Climate Link.
I did, yes, exactly. And so basically this is a neat idea. I want to know how you're thinking about this, from a market sizing perspective and where you're looking to grow. And it sounds like a very similar project to the aspiration kind of debit card thing. And I'm not sure if you're differentiating. It seems like, banking in general is big enough that there's plenty of room. There probably should be like 3 or 4 or 10 of these climate focused ones, and maybe hopefully the traditional banks will switch at some point too. But anyway, thoughts on that?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So yeah, us aspiration, we need dozens of entities like this, and ultimately we need to shift the Chases, the JP Morgans, the BNP Paribas of the world, because there's $150 trillion in global banking assets, and this is a hundreds of trillions of dollars opportunity in changing out the infrastructure of the world. So yes, technically aspiration and us are competitors, but that's quibbling over nickels when we're going after something so large, and we need to go after this. So, and the main difference between us and aspiration is that you spend money with aspiration through their debit card, and then they get fees from those, and then they'll take those fees, and if they are profitable, then they'll plant trees with those. That's their primary environmental benefit, is the tree planting campaign. Whereas we're going to lend the deposits that sit with us directly to change out this infrastructure. So smart wire technology, it's like, okay, a utility wants to do a big project, they're doing a capital campaign. Your deposits could help fund a smart wires project with a utility. That's sort of where we're going. And that's the main difference, is that we're actually planning to deploy this capital for this infrastructure change.
Thanks.
Ravi, I'll give you one more. I think Electric Fish, you guys should have that conversation directly. That looks interesting. But Alex is asking, how would you communicate this to friends and family for people who might be concerned about banking with a startup?
Yeah, so we have a giant FDIC logo shield on our website. It's like, look, we work with a bank. So it's a 100-year-old bank. They have not lost people's money. The FDIC, the government entity which insures deposits in the US, they protect everyone's deposits. And so in 3 to 5 minutes, you can open an account with Atmos. If you need it back, you can ACH or wire it right back out of your account. Once you have a debit card, you'll be able to remove it from an ATM. So it's, I understand the concern, and the most important thing that we can do is get the word out there, show that we're not losing people's money, that we are working with regulated chartered banks so that the money is all FDIC insured. So we often get compared to investing directly into a solar project. So why would I put my money with Atmos to earn 0.5% if I can invest that will fund solar project, when I can invest directly into the solar project and earn 8%? And the primary difference is that you can't buy milk with the investment directly into the solar project. Like an Atmos account is an FDIC insured 100% liquid account. And so you can put it in, remove it if you need it, and you don't have to worry about whether or not you will have access to that investment, or if, God forbid, anything should happen to Atmos or our banking partners, the FDIC will step in and return the money.
Great, thanks for that explanation. Hopefully helpful to some folks, and we'll save the rest of the questions for email or addressing later. But I'd like to ask Christie now. She's our last founder giving a longer talk, to unmute herself.
Yep, can you guys hear me? I'm actually talking through my phone to save bandwidth. Is that okay?
We've got you, yeah.
Okay, great. I'm gonna share my screen, and if you could just confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, we see it.
Oh, great. Hello, everybody. My name is Christie Lagally. I'm the founder and CEO of Rebellyous Foods. We are developing a production stack for making plant-based meat, or in this essence, making enough plant-based meat for everyone. We operate in 3 areas at Rebellyous Foods. We develop products and sell under the name Rebellyous Foods. We operate a food manufacturing facility here in West Seattle. And we also run a top-tier engineering team that is developing the next generation of plant-based meat production equipment. And that's actually why I'm here today to talk to you today. We believe in making enough plant-based meat for everyone through novel production methods and equipment that enable us to provide superior, affordable, and products available to everyone. But you might be asking, why focus on chicken? And essentially, it's a proxy for all plant-based meat production. But let's just talk a moment about chicken. Environmentalists are completely on board with the fact that we need to reduce our meat consumption to address climate change and a variety of other issues. But a lot of people don't realize, and actually Bill Gates recently said that we really needed to go to about 100% synthetic beef in the developed world. But unfortunately, the reality is that greenhouse gas emissions from beef production are nearly equal to that of the rest of the meat industry. Hence, we really need to replace a lot more than just beef, and that obviously includes the largest sector of the meat industry, which is actually chicken. And as if that wasn't motivation enough, essentially public health officials have been warning us for decades that the biggest risk of the next global pandemic, another environmental issue, is that avian flu would jump to humans. And as if we weren't tired enough of this pandemic, last December, actually just last week, or pardon me, 2 weeks ago, the Russian Federation actually announced that they did see a jump of avian flu to humans in 7 poultry workers last December. So these global pandemics are a huge risk coming from the chicken industry. Unfortunately, in the United States alone, we produce over 108 billion pounds of animal-based meat, and yet we only produce about 0.5% of that volume in plant-based meat. And as a result, a lot of people don't have access to meat replacements despite their desire to address human health, climate change, animal welfare, and even pandemic prevention reasons. So we have an unprecedented situation. We're essentially trying to reduce our meat consumption, but it's exactly like asking people not to drive their car, but only allowing them to have about one trip or one plant-based meat meal per year. So our vision at Rebellyous is to essentially make plant-based meat a truly scalable, sustainable, and viable solution to industrial animal agriculture. And we're doing this through developing production equipment and technology that allows us to effectively serve the food service and CPG markets and replace meat on a much larger scale. As I mentioned, we do this by developing our own products, and we develop that for both fast food restaurants that don't have our name on it, as well as CPG products. These are our products that were launched just 30 days ago. So they're in Washington, California, and Oregon. We operate our own production facility, and this works as both a production facility and a living laboratory for us to deploy our new production equipment, which of course is one of our main focus as I'm talking to you today. We developed the next generation of manufacturing technology that allows us to make plant-based meat faster, better, and cheaper. And a lot of people don't realize that what makes meat cheap is actually manufacturing technology, that we've automated the production of meat. Rebellyous Foods is changing that. We're designing the next generation of plant-based meat equipment to make plant-based meat faster, better, higher quality, and much less expensive. So in summary, essentially Rebellyous is making the alt meat solution to climate change viable. At current trajectories, without the type of work that we're doing, we really only expect to see about maybe $5 billion in plant-based meat production in the next 10 years. We hope to make that closer to about $35 billion, which would then actually do, as Bill Gates said, replace about 100% of synthetic beef with synthetic beef. So I'll go ahead and take your questions now, and appreciate your attention.
Great, you've inspired some vigorous chat. So thanks, Christie. Carrie's question, she's asking about health of your products.
Yeah, so we're really proud of the health profile of our products. First of all, they have no cholesterol. They have considerably less saturated fat than chicken. They have less or about the same as sodium, which is a lot better than some other plant-based meat. Not that, a lot of people eat for health reasons. They don't really eat burgers for health reasons, so oftentimes it is better for you, but the sodium issue is often an issue. It's not an issue for our products. And of course, it's antibiotic-free. So, most chickens in the world are still raised with antibiotics. You're really lucky if you don't get if you get antibiotic-free chicken. And as a result, you obviously the less saturated fat, no cholesterol. It all makes a really, really big difference. Also, our company serves specifically the National School Lunch Program, and this is a big advantage to K-12 schools who are looking to replace meat for the antibiotic reasons.
Carrie, go ahead. Did you have something to add?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I just wasn't sure what was the best way to ask the question. But yeah, no, I mean, I noticed that everything that you featured in the photographs looks like it's breaded and fried. And so I just, as somebody who would very much like to switch over, I'd love to see more innovation around products that actually, look healthier. And, I appreciate all the stats you shared, but I think there's lots of opportunity for innovation around foods that actually look and taste great and, aren't sort of just substitutions for meat.
I agree. Yeah, so it's interesting to note that if we are going to replace meat on a large scale for climate change reasons, 52% of all chicken in the United States is actually processed chicken products. So we're looking to meet customers where they are at. There's no doubt that there are customers like yourself who are looking for maybe unbreaded or kind of whole muscle cut meat chicken products. That is not happen to be our market. We are working on essentially replacing the products that are most convenient to consumers and hence show up in large scale in fast food restaurants, K-12 schools, cafeterias, stadiums, places like that. But I totally hear you, and there are some really great companies out there doing that other type of product. But we replace the majority of it, actually.
Thanks for that, Christie. This was great, and I'll let you see some of these comments later on when you're back on your computer and on not on your phone. But I'd love to now invite some of our other Diamond List founders to jump in on the conversation. Those of you who have put lightning in your name, those are the ones I'm going to call on. And so the first person I'm seeing is Kevin from Unspun. If you're there, could you give like a 30-second super quick just intro of you and your work?
Yeah, totally. Of course, that first one comes up as I take a bite of burrito. Sorry about that. Hey everyone, I'm Kevin. I'm one of the founders at Unspun. We make the world's best fitting and most sustainable jeans as our Trojan horse on the consumer facing side, and a completely new automated robotic manufacturing process for apparel on the back end, working towards automated and essentially on-demand apparel manufacturing. We are raising money. We've actually mostly filled that all the way up, so not necessarily taking new checks on that, but always interested in particularly speaking with or getting more women on the cap table. So if you know anyone that's relevant there, always love intros.
That's rad. Thanks, Kevin. Tom Price, if you're there, do you mind going next?
Yes, I can. 30 seconds. Ready? Here we go. What's the #1 source of climate emissions in the developing world? It's how people make dinner. Every day, 3 billion people basically light a pile of charcoal on fire. It's terrible for their health and the environment. So we replace charcoal with these clean burning wood pellets, put it in this stove. What's the result? 98% reduction in emissions, 90% reduction in CO2, cuts carbon by an average of 9 tons per household per year, and costs them 30% less than what they're already doing. We're funded by lower carbon capital and like Olya, some money from the Lago Foundation, and we have a little bit of money left in our seed round, and that is 30 seconds.
Amazing. You had your props ready. Okay, Michelle Cooler, is that your name? Hopefully I'm saying that right.
Yes. Hi, I'm Michael Galopter. I'm the CEO of Cooler.
Oh, sorry, typo.
No, it's actually I pronounce it Michael because only my parents call me Michelle, but hi, everybody. So we make any product or service carbon neutral at point of sale. We basically, using an API and integrations with Shopify and BigCommerce and other e-commerce platforms, we enable vendors to calculate instantly the carbon footprint of whatever they sell, including services. And we do not use offsets. We neutralize the purchases, and the average cost is less than is usually about 0.5% of the cost of for durable goods. It's about 0.5%. We net about 0.1% of that. All that money goes. The multiplier effect, besides actually removing pollution, it actually generates renewable investment. 1.5x of that money has a multiplier of 1.5x for renewable investment. And 1.5x in health benefits because it reduces pollution around factories as well, because we're squeezing pollution down. So we're basically competing consumer dollars against polluters for the right to emit, and it removes carbon every quarter all the time. There's $20 trillion of climate conscious shopping in the world. And if we could hit 0.5% of that, take 0.5% of that and shove it against polluters, we could shut down a lot of smokestacks and invest in a lot of your companies, hopefully.
Thank you. Wonderful. Marcus from CalWave.
Yeah, hi everyone. Marcus, co-founder CEO of CalWave Power Technologies. We're a spin out from Cyclotron Road, first cohort, also current member of Greentown Labs, and we develop ocean energy technology. We're funded by the Department of Energy. We have 3 larger contracts currently in the pilot phase. It's not public, but we'll go online with a first pilot device of the research pier in San Diego later this year. So there will be a larger announcement there. We have a second larger contract to deploy at a new 20 megawatt test site up in Oregon. And yeah, going forward, we're attacking, addressing emissions from diesel generators in island communities, representing around 11% of the global population. These emissions are as high as a coal power plant, so even if fusion works, these people still need power, and we're really a great source of baseload power there, can bridge the last 40% towards 100% renewable grid in these remote microgrids. And yeah, excited about the list and opportunity to present, and yeah, we're planning to open a Series A later this year once our pilot is operational.
Very exciting. Thank you. Elon from Pika Diapers.
Yes, hello everyone. So my name is Elon. So I'm the founder of Pika. So at Pika, we are just trying to make closed diapers much more easier to use. So our goal is to eliminate the use of disposable plastic diapers. Like we just so Pika is basically a small machine that cleans closed diapers in one step. So the parents just need to put inside the diapers and then they come out perfectly clean. And that's it. We're just trying to deal with all this poo and pee, and get this like very easy to clean without any effort. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Short and sweet. Anurag, Electric Fish.
Great. Hello, everyone. Do you drive an electric vehicle, or are you going to buy one? 7 out of 10 of you said no as an answer to this question. But EVs are generally superior, fun to drive, but they are not taking off as this should be. And range anxiety is what troubles people. They say it's not like gasoline, and it's not the case that there's a gas station right beside for me to drop by. That's exactly what we're trying to bring to EVs. Our microgrids, our big battery packs, use the same existing electricity infrastructure to be deployed at gas stations, which can deliver up to 100 miles of range and 5 minutes of charging. So I'm Anurag from electricfish.co, and ask me about the long-term impact of our solution on the electricity grid. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Daniel from Grow Computer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel L. Nelson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Grow Computer, where we're building digital tools to help people better control the physical world. Our first market is in indoor and controlled environment agriculture, where our digital platform helps growers better collect all of the data from their farms and grows and better process it, automate it, and track it to allow for both operational and production efficiencies, but also for peace of mind to understand what's going on when they're not in the space. We've been bootstrapped to this point, and we're excited to be launching our first mass market product probably in Q2 this year. We're also hoping to raise our first round of capital. We have a round open right now, and we're looking for more investors if there's any out here. Thank you so much.
Nice. There definitely are some, and we're hoping to get you to the breakout room soon. It seems like there's more and more of you founders who are speaking. Okay, Eric, Terramint.
Thanks. Terramint is building low-cost, high-scale energy storage to replace pumped hydro as our primary source of grid-scale storage. If you're not familiar with the market, it's projected to become $1 trillion global market, energy storage, because without it, wind and solar will stagnate and will fail to stop global warming, essentially. So our patent pending solution is an underground modular gravity battery. Our design is low risk because it uses nothing but simple height and weight, and it's cheaper than anything else in the market today.
Fantastic, thank you. Janice from Canon Energy.
Yep. Hey, everyone. So yeah, Janice from Canon Energy. We're a company that focuses on industrial efficiency and waste heat to power. So many of you don't know that the heavy industrial sector is one of the largest polluting sectors on the planet, and that's the place that we want to tackle, especially where it comes to waste heat. So over 52% of energy that is used at industrial sites are not actually converted into useful work, and it's just wasted into the atmosphere in many forms of waste heat. And so we want to take that waste heat and turn that into power. That's what we do.
Fantastic, thank you. Josh from Noya.
Hello, Diamond List. My name is Josh. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Noya. Noya captures CO2 from the sky and resells it for 2x cheaper than existing options. We do this by retrofitting existing industrial equipment like cooling towers and turning them into CO2 capture machines. We're a team of 4 engineers and scientists from top-tier universities and companies like MIT, Yale, Stanford, and Tesla. And we have our first commercial DAC pilot under construction, estimated to capture 200 tons of CO2 per year. We have 7,000 tons CO2 per year in captured signed LOIs, and we have $90,000 in CO2 sales in signed LOIs. We're backed by 50 years in lower carbon capital, and we're in the current YC batch. Again, my name is Josh, and I'm from Noya. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Nice tech setup over there too. Julia from Sway.
Hey everybody, I'm Julia. This is my co-founder Matt, and Sway is harnessing the power of seaweed to replace single-use plastics. Seaweed is a regenerative resource. It can sequester up to 20 times more carbon than trees. Our material is a compostable one-to-one replacement for flexible plastic packaging. We just won the Beyond the Bag Challenge, sponsored by Closed Loop Partners, Target, CVS, and Walmart, to replace the plastic bag. And we believe that seaweed can help uplift value chains so that rather than only diminishing and causing harm at every step of the supply chain the way that plastics do, we can actively replenish and restore human and natural systems. And we are starting a pre-seed round if anyone is interested. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that, both of you. Lewis from Recool It.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Lewis, founder and CEO of Recool It, where we are solving the world's refrigerant problem. This was Project Drawdown's #1 climate opportunity, 90 gigatons of preventable emissions by 2050. There are ACs and refrigerators all over the world, billions of them, billions more coming in the next decade. All of them are full of super potent greenhouse gases. So our software is creating a circular economy for these refrigerants, which gets technicians paid for doing the right thing at device end of life, and creates really high quality offsets for corporate buyers. We're early, we're focused on the developing world, and we just launched our first pilot in Indonesia. We're also not raising right now, but definitely looking for connections to cooling device manufacturers. So if you know anyone, please reach out. And I would love to talk to anyone else who's interested in learning more. I'm Lewis at freecoolit.com if you want to send me an email.
Nice, nice. Manik from Therma.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Manik Suri. I'm the founder and CEO at Therma. We're building a smart cold chain platform to transform the world's commercial and industrial refrigeration cold chain. The cold chain is responsible for huge amounts of emissions, up to 15% of all emissions across food waste, energy waste, and refrigerant waste. And we're trying to make a dent in that by leveraging IoT to monitor assets that were historically dumb, to use analytics, a combination of ML and AI on backward and forward-looking predictive insights on equipment performance to drive efficiencies across huge swaths of the cold chain in the world. We just raised a 10 million seed led by Decian's Collaborative Fund and Sequoia. And we're very much in growth mode and looking to partner with new folks. Olya, thanks for having us on the Diamond List. Great to be here.
Congrats, awesome. Nico from Ficos.
Hi, I'm Nico Julian and the CEO of Ficos. We are developing a system to grow vast quantities of seaweed on the open ocean on smart platforms that optimize growth, then sink that seaweed biomass to the ocean floor, locking away gigatons of carbon per century. There are also fantastic co-benefits of cleaning, cooling, and deacidifying ocean waters. After 2 years of science de-risking, we are currently raising a seed round for a team of 10 and a 2-year runway to refine the technology.
Great, thank you. And I think this is our last Diamond List founder. Stick around for the breakout. Shil from Mission Zero.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, or night to wherever you are. I'm Shil, co-founder and chief product officer at Mission Zero. We're also developing direct air capture technology with a market-first approach. So we got your eyes on you, Noya. Look out. Our IP is kind of inherently scalable and energy efficient, so we can remove CO2 from the air at market commodity prices of CO2, and we can deliver this to people who use as well as sequester CO2 in a decentralized manner, something that the market can't deliver at the moment. This allows us to connect both the CO2 emitters and the consumers in their efforts to achieve net zero targets. In 9 months, we've gone through a tech accelerator, and we're also on the third derivative program right now. We are TRL4, and we're looking to raise a seed round late 2021. So we'd love to talk to investors with whom that timeline matches up. Thank you.
Wonderful. And Olya and I would love it if everybody could just unmute themselves and clap now, please. It's the best we can do to get some energy in the Zoom room. So thank you all of you founders who spoke earlier and who just gave a quick intro. Hopefully that got you all excited to mix and mingle together. I'm actually going to hand it off to June to facilitate our breakouts. June from IndieBio.